There we go. Okay. Now we're recording.
Sick.
What the fuck are you doing?
I'm blowing into it.
Oh.
Sounds like explosions.
That blows.
That blows. Welcome, everybody, to the Drift Jam podcast.
Hey.
Yo.
What's
up?
So, we're at the Drift Jam headquarters.
Yeah, we're at Drift Jam HQ. This is the upper level of our shop.
Top secret.
It's not really a shop. It's more of a studio space, but it's got this little, corner tucked in up here.
Don't try
With
to
some
pull it.
wicked hardwood on the wall.
On the wall.
On the
Shout
wall.
out Martino.
I put that there a long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah. It's got a decent vibe. Jover keeps his race car here. I keep my street car here when it's winter time.
I keep
Yeah.
it
Pretty
to
cool.
the
So,
We also had a wicked birthday party for me this summer.
oh, we did.
Yeah, remember? Yeah,
the screw face.
Yeah, the
party.
screw
Yeah,
face
that was
party
sick.
was pretty
That was
sick.
fun.
missed
Sick.
out.
Yeah,
Tobin, shout out to Tobin. He has some wicked video production. That guy is creative.
And everybody brought the heat, man. And no cops came, and that was pretty damn cool.
Fortunately.
Yeah, this. I don't really want to get into where the location is.
That got risky.
Yeah,
We're pretty
it's all good.
we're pretty close to the city, and it's really weird that no cops ever seem to come because it definitely it goes down on this street, bro. I've seen
all the time.
bikers doing wheelies. I've seen bikers
Or
do wheelies
every
and crash.
Volkswagen.
Whatever,
So,
but
Jover,
Yeah, what up?
tell us about yourself.
Man, where do I start? I have an interest in cars. You want to start where I got into Corollas
Yeah,
early
let's
when I was a kid.
hear about that. Let's hear about your first
Yeah, so I
your
have a
first
weird-
introduction to drifting.
I have a weird obsession with cars and getting sideways. We can go further back. When I was a kid, I actually sat in my uncle's A86, and I thought I want one of these days.
Mhm.
You know, but
Now you have
I guess-
100.
I guess the obsession came, drifting obsession came when I guess my dad would lend me the minivan.
Yeah.
And I would do donuts in it. Sorry, Dad. Used to do donuts at Scarborough Bluffs. Hang out with friends, open the sunroof, and go do donuts. And it stemmed from that, and it became a thing. And then I eventually bought a car. When it's time for me to buy my own car, my first car, which
Yeah.
is actually the race car.
That was your first one?
Yeah, it's my first car I ever bought.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. At that time, there were so many $1,000 Corollas on Trader
Yeah.
that I had all kinds of options. But I came across this one because it was also already supercharged and lowered, had cool wheels on it.
Oh, so you ruined it.
And
what
no,
year was it?
This
What
was 1998.
So you made it look worse.
No, man.
No, it looks cool. I love the way your car
Keep
looks.
going, keep going.
Yeah. So I thought, hey, whatever. I'm gonna go check out this car, see
Yeah.
what a fast one is like, right?
Yeah.
So I went up there, talked to the guy that was selling it, and the guy was like, okay, this is going to be the best example that you're going to drive. And I go, okay, whatever, sure. I drove it. I was instantly like, this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And it had no rust or anything, but it was way out of my price range.
How much?
It was, at that time, he wanted $8,500.
That's cheap
When
now.
all the Corollas were like $1,000.
That's
back
cheap
then.
now.
Yeah. And basically I said, okay, you guys willing to negotiate? Maybe we'll take a couple things off, And they said, okay, we'll take the wheels off, which were 3-piece wheels. They also had some...
Do you remember what wheels they were?
Yeah, there were the raised wheels that I have now, similar to that design.
Yeah.
The fin spoke
Uh-huh.
wheels. So he had those wheels. He had a Momo steering wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a sub with a system in it. So he goes, I'll get rid of all this stuff, and actually, if you want to buy it, I'll negotiate down to $4,800. So I went to the bank and got my first loan and bought my car.
And then, so from there, where was your first actual introduction to drifting?
I had a big obsession about collecting magazines at the time, so I had a lot of option magazines, and I could go to Pacific Mall and actually get a couple of,
Oh, P-Mall.
even a young version and stuff
Yeah.
like that, just to look at different cars. And I used to look at the Corollas, and I'm like, how come they have so much camber up front? And then eventually, the internet age, you got to not only download pictures but see videos of drifting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the biggest introduction would be back in the day when you go on the internet and you reach out and say, hey, any Canadians out here? And I had one guy respond, and he gave me dubs of all his VHS tapes of option video. I remember volume 41 and 42, which was an 86 special, which was best motoring. So I got into that, and I was like, oh, this is pretty sick. And it came from there, and then all of a sudden I'm getting tapes from people in Europe where they were doing different, basically doing donuts in parking lots.
Yeah.
And then after that was Initial D, which blew my mind. I was like, what the heck? The protagonist drives a Corolla,
Yeah.
you know? So that was cool.
And you were really young when I first met you. I think it might have been a Drift Ops event. Probably.
Yeah, it would have been.
It was a long
Drift
time
Ops.
ago.
It was Drift Ops.
Shannonville.
I remember when Top Drift came around. Shout out
Yeah.
Top Drift.
Yeah.
It was Drift Ops.
Anyways, yeah, it must have been a Drift Jam or Drift Ops event, and
Yeah.
it was Shannonville, and you were young, man. You
Yeah,
were
dude.
stoked, and you were young.
I've just always been like heavily interested in like cars and shit.
Why?
I don't know. I think like I used to hang out with my granddad a lot growing up, and he used to work at a like a shop in Scarborough,
Mm-hmm.
and they would fix like big 18-wheelers and shit. So I would always like hang around the shop and like sit in the passenger seat while they'd move these trucks around and shit like that. And like I think just that level of like just seeing people take these things apart, like I don't know, something about that just
Sparked your interest.
it sparked my interest in like trucks and like that kind of shit. And then that just led to me just loving anything with like wheels and an engine.
But how did you get
So,
to
like-
Shannonville? Where did that like?
Yeah, dude. Basically just I always thought drifting was really lame. I'm not gonna lie. Like up until
It sucks.
this is gonna
It
sound
sucks.
horrible. Up until
It
like
sucks. Drifting
Fast and
sucks.
Furious Tokyo Drift, like
Oh,
I was in grade 3 when that came out.
Where's that clip? that Jover didn't want me to put.
Yeah, I was in grade 3 when that came out, and I remember just like I was always interested in cars, but it was strictly from like a taking something apart, putting it back together perspective, and like just a
Lego.
design and Lego function kind of shit. Like I was just super ADD and would take stuff apart all the time. So fucking, I finally like started watching Fast and Furious, and I was like, yo, there's like this whole like that was my first exposure to culture and like how that can like your love of this machine can change the way that you talk and like the way you dress. And yeah, I never really thought about like modifying them, if that makes any sense. So I would just like start drawing like modified cars with liveries and shit like that all the fucking time. And then I realized that the cars that I liked drawing and the cars that I liked looking at weren't really race cars. Like there was no, that's when like racers were like that terminology, which it's like I think pretty racist now. Like you're not supposed to say that shit, but like that's when those cars would kind of be labeled as that.
Shout
If that
out
makes
Marty
sense.
and Seven.
Like early like early 2000s like tuning and shit. Like I just thought that was so cool. But I also knew that real race car drivers that like did time attack and drag race looked down on cars like that. So I always felt kind of torn and split. Just like, man, I really like heavy fuck with like neon lights and like wheel fitment and shit. But like, man,
still
like,
do.
It's so that's what I mean. That's where like drifting came along. So I always thought like I would have these thoughts of like, man, I really like style and I really like cars that go fast. And like I'd watch like British Touring Championship and shit like that. Like I just thought those cars were so cool. And fucking Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift came out. I remember watching it and I was like, this movie's kind of dumb, but this Han character's kind of cool. And for that reason, I want to look more into this. And then I just kept, like, I just go on YouTube and search drifting and shit. I started watching, like, Option JDM. I would just, like, all through high school, I just, like, from basically grade 3 up until I could buy a car, I would just, like, watch Option videos all the fucking time. Like, the Drift Bible I've seen, like, 5 times over. You can find this, like, really sick, like, hole in YouTube where it's just, like, the next
drawn.
video is just, like, Option. Like, they're not even English titles anymore. It's just symbols and shit, but it's,
Yeah.
like, an hour-long video that's, like,
We-
English
we've
dub.
all been there.
Yeah. So I would just fucking dive into that shit, and I was like, wow, this is, like, the perfect mixture of, like, function and form. Like, these cars are stylish as fuck, but they're still, like, really holding it down. So, yeah, that's kind of what drew me to it. I just thought, like, all of that stuff was really cool, and I really wanted to like experience it here.
And then who brought you to Shannonville? Like you couldn't have walked there.
Oh yeah, dude. So my whole experience was just seeing it on the internet and stuff. And I rode BMX, so I'd go to the skate park and we would talk about it as like just this thing that was kind of cool. And I had a friend, Brian White, who was a filmer.
remember Brian.
Yeah. He was a filmer, and he was like, "Yo, man, like you're in the drift cars. I go to these events on weekends. They're all the way in Shannonville, but like I can get my mom. You know, we're fucking 15. I can get my mom's
I told you
Mazda
you were
3 or my dad's Mazda 3, and like he doesn't even like just give me like $30 gas, and we can get there. If we say that we're media, we'll get in free." I was like, "Yo, what? Like what kind of cars are at these events and shit?" And he was like, "Oh, like these," and he's showing me like Nissan 240s and fucking, you know, like the cars that would show up to these events. And I had like never seen an S13
There
in
were also
person,
zero
you know?
BMWs
So crazy.
there.
Yeah, all like
Zero.
really hype just Japanese like sick fucking cars. I was like,
Well,
there's no way this
They
is
weren't
like.
that great. At that
I thought
point.
they were cool.
They were like
Yeah, but like
they were very
at the
stock.
time, for sure, I have that perspective now. But like at the time, being 15, just like
Yeah, stoked on
never even
everything.
driven
Oh, yeah,
stick
real
before,
stoked,
kind
yeah.
of shit. I was like, yo, this is crazy. So that weekend we went, and that's like that was the start of it all. We just went to Shannonville. I'm like, all right, like I'd moved to Bowmanville from like kind of closer to the city, so I was like, I'm already doing some hick shit. Like, let's go further into it. Let's dive deeper. So we fucking went to Shannonville, and I remember just like getting there and just being like, what, bro? Like, you can literally do whatever the fuck you want here. And like, I went for ride-alongs, and like, it was crazy. I was just hooked. As soon as I went for ride-along, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like,
And now you run Drift Jam with Jover.
yeah,
Yeah.
one
So-
thing led to another.
Yeah.
That's a big jump though. You went from like
Yeah. Well,
it's a big jump in a way, but it's also a good jump because it molded you into now someone who can run a successful drift event.
I don't know. I guess.
No, it's totally successful. We all know that. And you can sit back and now you're looking at driving more during the year. So like you've gotten to the point of being able to have it self-sustaining.
Yeah, for sure. That's not really like me though. That's kind of all the volunteers and people that like help me the fuck out and
Absolutely.
make this
That's
like
all the
guys
cogs
like
in
you,
the
right?
machine,
Like,
man.
Absolutely.
You know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The beginning actually was about like we needed an outlet for up and coming professionals that wanted to get into competitive drifting.
Right.
There was a hole in the Ontario
Right.
market, and that was the original plan, was to come up with something like that. And I
Like
I remember pitching it to a bunch of people at the Chinese restaurant, all of our peers, and they were like, "Okay, it's kind of cool, but who's gonna do it?" Right? And it all came on to like, "Okay, I'm doing it. Who's with me?" I was like a Jerry Maguire moment. I was like, "Who's with me?" And Devo actually said, "I'm with you. Let's do this."
Yeah,
That's good.
that's
you know,
pretty
like
much
for me, it was a
like
legacy thing, and I thought, we got to do something now about it and take it by the wheel. At least that's my standpoint, and I wanted to see like
You took
sort of my
You took it by the
ideals
wheel.
and kind of like I want to see my ideals and kind of like perpetuate that
Yeah.
in a community.
yeah, Jover. Yeah, you're definitely about that stuff. I was more like, let's just go drifting somewhere weird. So we've always just been trying to do like
Weird
we
shit.
like we will do like competition, like we'll bring that, but
Yeah.
it's not
A
like
fun competition.
yeah, it's a
It's our
fun
spin.
competition.
Yeah.
Like at that TMP event that I did.
Competing, ew.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun competing. Like, and I hate competing, not because I'm against it or anything. It takes the fun out of it for me, and I don't want that pressure. And I had a lot of fun competing at the TMP event because one, you guys you put a different spin on it, and also I was the only street car against all those pro cars. Well, they are pro cars.
They're
but,
pro.
Like,
They're professional.
I didn't get very far, but I still made what, fourth
Yeah,
place?
man, you were just on the cusp of getting on podium, man.
Yeah.
That was fun,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed that, and I don't like competition.
What I will say about TMP, I really liked seeing like that field of cars. That was fucked.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
it was
cool.
Your competitions, like top level, like final bout quality, final bout car, and then like Formula Drift quality, Formula Drift car. and, like,
Josiah, Pat.
yeah,
Was
that was
everything
huge.
the best of the
Dan.
best of everything that we're
It was fun.
that's cool about drifting. That's what I
Yeah.
loved about it,
Yeah.
that event.
But again, fuck competition.
Yeah, we got rid of qualifying, right? But we also, in between competition rounds, we ran people that got
Yeah,
disqualified.
that was good too.
That didn't qualify.
That helps out.
So it's
Yeah.
like the show. Our goal was to keep the show going.
Mhm.
So even if you're not following the competition, you're like, cool. You see drift cars do their thing.
and as
Yeah.
good as a driver, because if you're a driver who gets disqualified,
You still-
you're like, man, I can't drive now. No,
Yeah.
you can.
You keep
because
going.
you can still have fun. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
You guys did well.
Oh wow,
That's
you
the-
weren't being sarcastic.
We're just getting
No,
started,
I'm not.
bro.
I'm not
Honestly,
being sarcastic at all.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
we
I
just-
am, but no,
yeah.
you totally like knocked it out of the park, and I'm glad to be able to help in any way I can.
Fuck yeah. No,
Thank you to all the supporters also who helped Drift Jam out.
dude, volunteers. Holy
Those guys
fuck,
kill
man.
it.
Oh my god, dude.
Without people helping, like an event doesn't run. You
No,
can't
it doesn't
have
work.
two people do the entire thing.
It's true.
There's way too many logistics.
It's true.
And-
You know, because starting this, I was like, Psh, I'll fucking run the line while I do this and that in the
Yeah.
third, and Joe
I was
will
like-
do these 5 things. Bro, it'll be fine. Then you get there, and like, even though you have a bunch of volunteers, you just fucking have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And
It
it's
gets-
very hard to manage those people, especially if they are people who have no direction. You really have to soak it all in.
Again,
And that
you-
itself takes a whole role.
honestly, we come up with a plan and we wing it.
I would consider you the photography guru in our scene.
Sit.
And even if people don't know who you are,
Yeah.
they've guaranteed senior stuff.
To get back to the car, it's the super simple, like
Talk more into the
1993 Nissan Silvia. Really basic, like completely stock SR20.
Well, you got the boost up.
Just like, okay, so like 7 years after owning the car, I actually, with the help of my friends like Martino and a bunch of guys, like just turned up the boost to like 14 pounds.
It's a stock.
I
Like,
think
yeah.
you still owe me
T25.
for the boost gauge.
Yeah, for sure. That's not
That I
getting
like
paid.
found in the garbage.
Yeah, I gave you like 5 IOUs already.
And it's
That's
proper.
13.
It's got the right look.
I think you did
Yeah,
the right
aesthetic.
little bits. Like it's hard to quantify like how to modify a car to make it cool.
Yeah.
But you just managed to do the right things. You leave the right things stock, and you like,
Every time.
yeah, you just touch the right things, and it
Yeah.
completely changes the look of the vehicle while leaving like the right things where they need to be.
Yeah.
So you can still street drive it.
Yeah, so I got the car in 2010. It was actually my first car. I looked, I decided I wanted to get a car because my friends were into it. I mean, obviously I wanted a car as well, but just having friends that were into the scene already made it so much easier. And then, so I saved up the money and had like $5,000 saved up. And
Hang on. It's crazy to think that $5,000 is all you needed for that car right
Yeah.
You imported
Yeah.
it and shit.
now. No. Well,
no, so we actually went to, like, I looked for a long time. Everything was pretty rusty for what they were asking for. And I don't know, originally I wanted a hatch. We ended up finding like this S13 Silvia that was posted on some importer's website or something, and we went to look at it. And I don't know, I kind of forced myself to be like, okay, like coupe's not that bad. It was too good for the price that we paid for it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's so clean. Like,
Little
it's like a
background
K- is it
info. It's
Qs
a
or
Qs, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a Silvia
Yeah.
Qs that was originally like all swapped in Japan because
which I think was swapped at a dealer because it looks like it's immaculate. Like the harness and everything, the clips that you would typically break.
Yeah, they're
Are
all
perfect.
there.
Just last season, I put a replica G Corp front bumper on it.
Shout out G Corp.
Replica GP
Replica.
Sports side skirts. Stock rear bumper. It's on powered by Max coilovers with 15-inch Watanabes on it.
No.
And-
Specs on the wheels, man.
Yeah, you
Because
gotta-
like, you know what? Honestly, like that's where
Yeah, don't.
that's the icing on the
underplay.
cake right
Yeah.
there.
The wheels, honestly, I wanted. Actually, it was Jover. Like I remember just seeing his 8.6 on 15s, and something about it just made me want to see that
Small wheels.
that vision on my car. I think that's how my car evolves so much over the years because I see things and then I get ideas to make shit look like similar. Specs are 15 by 9.5 minus 19 all around, which is
That's what I had in the
Crash.
front of my
almost
Corolla
like
before.
way too big for
That's
a
retarded.
stock body car, but
Made it
we
work.
make it work.
Sick. What do you drive, Martino?
A car.
All right, Jover.
I
Boom.
drive that white S15 that goes drifting at all your events. All your events, by the way.
All of them.
All of them. Just want to point that out. Supporting. Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I wish I drove all
That
of
just
them.
means I like them. No, I have the white S15. I've had three or four other S chassis. They were S13s. The most recent one before the S15 was my 180, the black one, which went through a ton of versions.
That was a dope car.
Sometimes it sucked. Oh
It
my
was
God.
cool.
There
It was
were
cool.
there were a lot
It
of
was
shitty
cool
versions of
above, like it was conditional cool. You know, it was cool above 5,000 RPM when it had oil pressure and shit. It was cool when like the engine was fully off and it was.
Yeah, that car was way overbuilt, and I think that's what a lot of people do at this point. And it just being able to actually rebuild a vehicle kind of put me in a better spot of how I wanted to drive my car and how I wanted to have the outcome of it. And that was kind of what the S15 became, because I learned what I didn't like anymore. And then I learned what I really wanted. And then obviously the trip to Japan kind of solidified my want for an S15, which is what I've always wanted originally. And then when we came back and I got rid of not got rid of the car, but parted it out and rebuilt what I felt was my car. That's where I ended up with that. All those things I don't want to do. But one of the things I really want to talk about with you guys
Yeah.
is kind of what our whole thing is about is Drift Jam. It's what we're trying to foresee in our near future.
It's the move
of content, of podcasts, of kind of like our news, I guess would be, right?
Yeah, this is kind of, man, I've always wanted to film something cool up here.
Yeah.
Because like we never use this area, so this is like super cool.
Did you know that I put this together kind of?
Yes.
Like I put the floor on the wall.
I heard. This looks like Martino work, you know, that just look alright.
I love this space. I always have.
No, it's cool. It's like a little hideout.
Yeah.
I mean, basically the move this year with Drift Jam, remarket the sport of drifting and
repackage
just show,
it.
Like,
I don't even want to say
it
yeah,
and show.
That's a good way to explain it.
A different side of it. Show the more like skater-ish. I'm scared relating it. I was a bit more free about relating it to skater shit before, but
skater and like BMX.
Skater,
kind of stuff.
BMX referencing-ish kind of.
Dan was
style.
really good at showing that.
Yeah. He reflected that a lot in the edits and video. Like Scott Miller too.
Old Drift Posse videos,
edits and videos and stuff that he
which
made.
is essentially actually Drift Posse videos is where
that's where we all kind of connect. Drift Posse, shout out, man!
Yeah.
Like you guys,
I learned a lot from Brad and Pat. Shout out to them.
I
think all of us followed FD so closely when Pat was competing.
Yeah, because it was like, what's this guy in the Corolla gonna do? Like, what? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and he would shut it down.
He was actually really respectful and not because Pat, he is a bit wild. And he was actually really respectful in before him and I actually went out. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to get close, but like, I won't hit you. And I trust him.
But he knows. He's like that kind of driver you can see in like the fourth dimension.
Exactly.
And so time, space, and like some other like psychic thing. He knows.
The Pat dimension.
Yeah. The Pat dimension. He knows when you're going to spin out. He knows when you're going to.
And you don't see that
transition. Yeah.
You don't see that because a lot of people, they don't know that limit. And he was so respectful in that way because realistically, a lot of people now are like, I want to bang your door. I want to bang your door. I get that's cool, but like, don't. Someone who's such an aggressive driver, a really good aggressive driver, knows that boundary. And that's really cool to see, which I think is something that hopefully we can see more drivers happen with Drift Jam.
Yeah, well, that's I'd like to inspire more drivers like Pat, because Pat kind of is one of those dudes who, it doesn't really matter what he's driving. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much power it has, how much grip it has. He just figures out
how to drive it
and drives it really well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. It's cool seeing that shit.
And how do you see that kind of reflecting through Drift Jam? Like that mentality?
I think I want to say it's like a controlled chaos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I tell everybody at a driver's meeting, don't think of it as like you're going to drive to the limit and crash your shit and break it. Like, why don't you drive at 6 out of 10?
Or like a 8.
Or, you can turn up to 8 slowly, but like drive at a consistent 6, still be drifting, and look cool, look good for the photos, look good for the crowds, have fun, not break your shit, and still not like, go off track or, disrespect the place.
I think this is where we kind of disagree. I'm like, the last part, don't go off track, disrespect the place. Don't disrespect yourself.
No, but totally drive balls to the wall.
Drive like a fucking idiot.
But know how to drive.
But know how to drive. That's what I mean.
It sounds very contradictory because you need to drive more aggressive than you can handle, but you need to know how to handle it. Does that make sense?
It's like the right kind of aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have never reached that point when they're driving and they're like, I don't know how to dial it back from this.
Yeah. But see, that's why we have this podcast, because like communicating that is very hard.
Oh, it absolutely
it's
is.
super hard to communicate like exactly what we're kind of looking for. And like, it's hard to like stay an inclusive series without making people feel like butthurt losers, if that makes any sense. I want to see it more. I want to see more people like street drive their cars so that they can just come to Gamebridge on like a casual ass Friday.
Yeah.
Or,
that benefits.
Like just leave, like people, anyone that's never done this, whoever's just built an FD car and that's just been your whole like experience in drifting.
It's another.
I challenge you to just like get a cheap street car, make it look kind of decent.
That's a very good idea.
Keep it low power and just like put a pair of tires in it, go drifting for a day, and then drive it back home. Just see how you feel.
Pull up.